Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. If you enjoy our content, please consider donating and following our socials. Now, here are your hosts, Lady Alba and Lord Knight.
Hi, welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. We have a guest here today that's going to talk to us about something. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Angel.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit more?
No, I'm just kidding. I've practiced paganistry, I guess, for going on 3 years and a little bit more. I teach classes, I craft, I do a lot of admin things. I'm a project coordinator in my mundane job.
So I met you at a festival.
Yes.
Here in Gaston County, not too long ago. And unfortunately, you wind up with the old joke, 3 elders walk into a lecture, and what happens?
Yes. So your friend from the radio came over and started, and then you guys had got into the fair and came over, and it was a lot of fun to see you guys react with each other because there was a lot of history there, and you don't get to see that as often anymore. So I thought it was fun. I love teaching people that are older than me.
Well, I'm not saying we didn't give you a little bit of a rough time. So, otherwise, what was your experience on this? How long did it take you to realize who you were actually teaching?
It took me a minute because I didn't know this was a newer festival for me just because I haven't been to too many. The only bigger festival that I've been to is Mystic South, and I didn't teach the class there, so I was just an attendee. But it did take me a solid minute to figure out who I was talking to, in regards to everybody else. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. It's one of those things that I don't really it doesn't compute in my brain because I teach elder people all the time. Considering my age, because I'm only 28, so.
But just to let you know, I think you did a fantastic job on teaching.
Oh, good. Thank you. Because I was trying to give you guys the fast track because I know you guys, you guys were there.
Actually, no, I think we would have preferred the slow track. We like listening to people teach.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, it's one of those things that, again, it doesn't compute in my brain unless I'm I pick up what's going down. I have autism, so reading social cues is not a big thing for me, and I have a nervous laughter, so you will hear a lot of nervous laughter. But yeah, so it's one of those things that I love to teach. I actually just created another outline for a specific deity that I'm going to be teaching on the 28th. But yeah, if I knew you guys wanted the slow track, the only problem was it was really hot out there too. That was
that it was.
you have the hearth fire on the hottest day, and I thought that was really funny how that aligns because only spiritual people could make that happen. So. But yeah, so I definitely, I think it was fun to me because I like seeing the other opinions and the history and knowledge that you all have. And I keep forgetting his name. He was from the radio, and
Lord Onyx.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, he had mentioned that he doesn't worship deities with an altar, and I thought that was very interesting, and I thought that was really cool because I was telling my friend that was teaching the other shop there, her name's Gwenna, and I thought it was really cool because it really just brings you back to the basics of knowing that you don't need any magical tools. You just need yourself.
No, you don't. No, the best magical tool is to sit outside on a rock and...
Yes. I don't like going outside, but the outside world is, It's hard for me. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting to see like the different opinions. And that's a lot of the reason why I teach classes in the first place is A, to teach people something new, but also to see what kind of their thoughts are during the class, and even after they have tried some different things that fit their field, because it's just nice to know that you can do so many things by yourself. You don't need any tools, and you truly just need your person, and that's it.
True. I mean, that's the one thing about our religion is at the end of the day, you can take all our stuff away, we're still what we are.
Yes.
We don't need churches. We don't need Bibles. We just need ourselves.
Yeah. I think ourselves, but also community is very, very important to have. But even if you don't have it, again, like, yeah, you don't need, you just need yourself. You just need the knowledge that you have. I think I would die without books, but just because of that's how I learn primarily is through books and like going to like other seminars and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, as far as like teaching older people, I do that on a daily basis because of my mundane job. I'm a project coordinator. So a lot of people I have to teach just certain processes to, and implementing those processes and those types of things. And I'm actually helping two of my friends with their shop that they opened in Concord. And I'm doing a lot of the back end stuff because they don't have time for it. They're the owners. Like, they have so many different other things that they need to do. Very smart people, but they, there's some of the technical stuff that they just don't want to mess with. And they're just like, here, you and the store manager, who is also younger, you do those things. We'll focus on the bigger things. You focus on like the little technical things that just don't need to fill their brains. So
let me ask you a question then. Mm-hmm. All right. You educate grown-ups more than children, right? So correct. Can you give us some tips on educating adults versus children?
So the biggest thing that I have found, and it doesn't matter who you're teaching, to be honest. It could be children, it could be adults. The biggest thing, because I was a trainer, and I'm a trainer in my mundane life too, and you just have to teach people how they learn best. So there's different types of how people learn. I'm a very visual learner. If you're telling me something, I need to physically be able to see it to see what you're talking about. There are people that are more auditory learners. So there are people that they just want to hear you lecture. They don't need a PowerPoint to like keep pace with. They just want to hear you. They want to take notes. There are people that have photogenic memories. So like books and examples like that are going to be better for them. So it's really coming to them where they learn best. So being able to flip how you personally learn into how they learn is going to be the biggest tip I will always give people, is you have to meet them where they are. If you don't meet them where they are, that's when frustrations kind of come out, and when people get overwhelmed, and that's when you kind of have to come back to the drawing board.
Let me ask you this. Now, teaching older people, do you oftentimes find yourself looking at things from the 80s and 90s and stuff like that to make it more relatable?
I don't think I have, because I grew up in more of like the late 90s, 2000s.
Right.
And I would love to look at that. But the problem is too, is like the lore, when you're teaching people anyway, it's all in like the older anyway. I don't know. I've never actually taken that approach to see what it would relate to. I do try to make it like all my outlines are on paper. So I give them like a paper copy. It's very all through Word. I try not to do anything that's too like out there to manage, because then that causes like all the other issues, and I personally don't need to be overwhelmed by it, even if I know the system. So but that's a good point. No, I haven't, but I definitely would like to see kind of like how people learned back when.
Well, see, I've noticed over the years. I've noticed over the years when I teach that sometimes, especially when I'm dealing with people that are older than me, that grew up more in the 70s compared to me, using those terms and issues there helps them better understand certain things from their generation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I like personally I've just never like thought about it, but I when I'm teaching people cuz I'm newer to teaching classes, like actual classes. But like when I'm teaching processes and stuff, it's just very like directional, so like it's a step-by-step process, right?
Uh-huh.
Versus when you're teaching classes, it's more of like a fluid kind of like discussion like. So that's kind of where it's hard. I kind of just always preface classes with if you have questions or anything that you're confused about from what I've said to ask me the questions because I personally just I don't know, I don't it doesn't click in my brain of like that piece of it. I have to come at it from a very logical point of view, so like teaching it how they need to be taught is like the biggest way I've taught classes mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly.
Anything else you'd like to put out there? Any upcoming events you're going to be at?
Yeah, the events that I'm going to be at. So, my class that I'm teaching is Truths and Tricks. It's a class about the Norse god Loki and teaching essentially the beginning workings with him if you so chose to work with him, but also kind of showing a different side to him. He's not just a chaos deity. I promise. He really isn't. And that's going to be held at Serenity Emporium in Concord. They are at 6 Spring Street. Our next thing is actually our full moon ritual on October 19th. That's also at Serenity Emporium. I will be leading that ritual. And what was the other one? Oh, the Witchy Bazaar in Salisbury.
Dang, you're awful active.
Yes. So I own my own business, which is Angel Dream Creations. And Angel Dream Creations, I help them, like from my business point of view. I will also be reading at the Bag Lady in Charlotte on October 1st and October 19th as well.
Okay.
So all of the kind of like information and keeping up with me, you can keep up with me on Facebook. I forget to post events to my page half the time, but I promise it's there. I try to do it on my personal Facebook, so I got to remember to put it to my business Facebook. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of like the big ones that are coming up, but a lot of it happens at Serenity Emporium because they have a space for me to essentially like teach classes there. And typically it's after hours because there's a
Okay.
lot of stuff going on during the day, but I do a lot of their back end stuff, so that's why I'm so involved with them. And they're two of my mentors actually, so it's nice to have that kind of relationship that they teach me things and I can also teach them things.
Sounds great.
So
Well,
yeah,
appreciate you coming on.
yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk about different ways to alter your consciousness
Okay.
other than meditation.
Oh, well. Damn. Okay, there goes that one.
But there are other ways.
Yes, there
There
are.
are other forms. All right. For those who say, I can't meditate. All right.
Yeah, here are going to be some tips to help you out.
Hopefully. All right. Drumming circles. Just drumming alone help.
Yep,
And
drumming's a good one.
And especially if you can get it in a room where you can get the sound waves to resonate with you, to where in other words you can get them to kind of bounce off the walls and
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's kind of like singing in the bathroom.
right, or feeling the drums as they come up the streets during parades.
Right.
All
The
right,
resonation in the room will definitely help with that.
all right. Another form is, believe it or not, fasting. All right. Now, again, if you're going to do fasting, please check with your doctor before you do it.
Right. Right.
You have to do this healthy and correctly.
Right. And there's a proper way to do it. Well, we say proper, but we always advise if you're going to be fasting, start out kind of slow.
Right. You sort of wing yourself off.
Yeah, wean yourself off of food for a while and take like a week to do it. But yeah, first and foremost, check with your doctor.
Right. And then you have to break that fast kind of slow. You can't just sit down to a buffet. You'll make
No,
yourself
you can't. No, you can't. You'll make yourself sick.
All right. Believe it or not, another form is singing.
Yes.
Even if it's as simple as Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Right. That's
Right?
the joy of a lot of those songs is that they're so repetitive that it will alter your consciousness if you do it long enough.
Exactly. It sort of goes along the same line as chanting. Chanting can cause you to alter your consciousness.
Yes.
If I used to do this when I was in a production job, I would sit there and chant while I was doing my job, which made me speed up a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it does help, especially to maintain your focus.
it really does.
Another form, of course, are certain drugs. Now, if you're going to use drugs, you ministering them to yourself is not you meditating. That's you getting high. To use it for
Right.
meditation, it needs to be more in a ritual setting and given to you by someone else to control the dosage.
Someone who's experienced, someone who knows,
What they're doing.
you can't just trust anybody to do that. And I certainly am not advocating the use of drugs for that. So
No, I'm
that's
not
not,
either. I'm just saying
it's
if
not a
you
highly recommended practice.
while you're not in control, you have to leave somebody else in control.
Yes.
Watch over you. Another one, believe it or not, is scourging. Now, what scourging?
Well,
All right. If you know what a cat of nine tails is, this is what we're looking at. And normally a scourge has like little knots or heavy beads on them, and they're
right.
shorter than a cat of nine tails, right? They're normally
I
no
was going to
longer.
say it's not a whip.
No, this is not a whip. It's normally the strands on this is about as long as to the middle of your back. And what you do is you sit there and you take the scourge and you flip it over one shoulder, then the other one very lightly, trying to get it to hit the middle of your back to use your lungs as like a drum
Right. And it's like, it's a rhythm.
that sits there and alters your consciousness on this,
Right.
not necessarily the actual hitting itself. Yeah, you're not doing the Christian thing. You're not trying to drag blood out. You're just trying to get a beat going.
I was going to say, yeah, you're not going for the pain part of this.
No, you're not trying to punish yourself. You're trying to alter your consciousness. But with that said, believe it or not, pain can alter your consciousness.
Sure it can, yeah. I mean, you're releasing all kinds of chemicals in the brain, and yeah, it'll definitely alter your consciousness.
Again, something that has to be practiced and really done. But you see these people over in India who get the piercing and will be hung from their skin by
Oh
hooks
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and stuff like this. This is altered states of consciousness. Pain can help you get there.
Sure it can.
All right. Again, it's not the most safest thing to do unless you know
Well,
exactly what you're doing.
I was gonna say you either need to know exactly what you're doing, or you need to have complete trust in somebody else who says they know what they're doing.
Exactly. All right. Any other forms I've forgotten?
Well, when you're thinking about music and things like along those lines, you have singing bowls. Those are really good because it's a monotone thing and it's continuous, and it will definitely
But those
put you in
things
an
do
altered
better.
state.
But those things do better in like the bathrooms where you can get that resonating too. I mean, they're fine without, but
Well, they can. I'm sure it'll help, but like if you're outside, it's going to resonate with nature, and I think probably get a better effect out of it that way.
mhm, exercising can actually place you into an altered state of consciousness.
Sure, it can. Yeah, pretty much anything
All right.
repetitive.
Exactly. Anything that will allow your mind to disengage from itself.
Right.
This is a meditative state. If you can reach these states and other things, you can learn how to reach that state in meditation. You might have to use some of these other techniques to kind of help you learn how to get there. But these are some different ways. I'm trying to think of any others. I know sometimes doing strobe lights or certain patterns of light can help alter consciousness, but it can also cause seizures if you're not careful.
Yeah, it is something you need to be careful with. Smells. Certain smells tend to put people into certain states of mind as well.
because our
Again, that's
smells,
not for everybody.
again, smells link with memory, which puts us into an altered state by placing us in the memory where we remember the smell.
Right. So you can use that to your advantage and try some aromatherapy or just general incense,
As
things like that.
strange as it sounds, white noise playing in the background and actually
Oh
paying,
yeah.
and especially when you're paying attention to it
Yes.
instead of trying to ignore it. If you actually sit down and actually listen to what the noise is and sort of envelop it, that can often alter your consciousness.
That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that.
Now, for me personally, for some reason, always
Mhm.
being near a waterfall always causes me to automatically go into an altered state of consciousness.
Right. I love being near waterfalls. That's
The
like one of the
sound of the
best things
water
ever.
falling, the smell, the whole 9 yards is just everything you need.
Right. Well, it's back to the white noise. You've got the sound of the waterfall, and like you said, you've got the smell of the water, the smell of nature. You've got the visual. I mean, it's quite powerful.
Now, the flip side can also help you change your consciousness. By doing these deprivation tanks, that actually really does help to isolate you and maybe even help you get closer into a meditative state. Now, again, I didn't, unless you're living down the road from one and you actually got some real money,
Right.
yeah,
Or you
doing
can
this
afford
every
to have one installed in your house.
house, these would be a great thing to do if you're just starting out meditating, to go to one of these once a week for a couple of weeks or something
Right.
like that, to give you that sense of no input. You have to basically climb into your own head.
Right.
Because again, I hear this a lot. I cannot meditate. And the main point on this is to alter your consciousness, to see things in a different way.
Yeah, and a lot of people just think, well, I can't do the traditional meditations. But again, there's all these other ways that you can get into that state. I mean, it's all about a state of mind.
Right. It's about a
It's not
state of being.
necessarily it's not necessarily what you're doing while you're there. It's just getting to that state of mind. I mean, a lot of
Now,
people do it and don't even realize it. Going down the road.
I know a lot of guys growing up that would, especially the older guys, they would often sometimes go split wood to think things over. As strange as that sounds, but knowing how to split wood, I can understand what they were talking about.
Well, again, it's repetitive. It's something
Right.
you don't really have to think about once you get into it. It's just it becomes automatic.
It becomes automatic and allows your mind to go somewhere else because it's a task.
Right.
So,
Well, and like I was saying earlier, a lot of people do it and they'll drive down the road and they space out a little bit,
right.
or you might be walking somewhere and you space out a little bit. That's that same thing. That's going into that
That
similar
space.
state of mind. Yeah, it's in that
Right.
space.
Right. Because I've often heard of people doing that where they're like traveling behind a transfer truck and they get
Hmm.
truck hypnosis, and
Yeah.
the truck will pull off the highway and the person behind them will automatically follow them, even though it's not their exit,
Yeah.
because they've been traveling behind this truck for so long, they sort of zone out. Hence the reason why in the world that drive from one place to another that normally takes 2 hours seems like nothing.
Right. It's like, God, was I really on the road that long? It sure didn't feel like it.
Didn't feel like it. That's that road hypnosis. This is those
Yeah.
altered states of consciousness. And yes,
But
you are
again,
losing time.
yeah, you are.
You are. That does not mean you were kidnapped by aliens.
I mean, music in general, dancing, these are all fantastic ways. Staring into a fire. I
Oh
mean,
God, yes.
there's so many ways that you can get into that state of mind that I find it hard to believe that people just can't do it.
Right. It just I'm sorry, just if you start off with, if I could trick myself into this state for 5 minutes a day, you
Right.
will find that eventually you don't need that trick to do it.
Yep.
But there are other ways to meditate, to get into that consciousness. All you got to do is just figure out what works best for you.
Absolutely.
If anybody else got any ideas, let us know.
Right. I mean, please, because it is an issue that a lot of people face. And just letting you know, there's other ways to do it.
Yeah, it takes time. It is worth it once you learn how to do this. And what in the world that state really feels like, it
Hmm.
changes your way of seeing things a whole lot.
Yeah, and it will take time. I mean, you have to be patient.
Yes.
That's a key aspect of this. You have to be patient. You have to be diligent. You have
I
to be
mean,
consistent.
we just sat here and we said everything can do this if we allow it, from sports to, baking, even cooking. I don't know
Right.
how many times I've sat there and cook, and it's a recipe I've done 1,000 times, and I don't even remember.
Right.
I know it came out good.
It came out good. I did something to it.
All right. I think that's about it. I need some
All right.
coffee.
Yep, let's get some. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, a maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks.